Take a look at teams. The type of team, its structure, and its process and dynamics will affect organizational performance. There are formal groups which are sanctioned by the organization, like departments, and informal groups which develop spontaneously when members get together voluntarily because of similar interests. Two major types of formal groups are functional and task. Functional teams are formal, ongoing teams that consist of managers and employees. Each work unit or department makes up a functional group. There are also cross-functional groups with members from different groups which can be ongoing or temporary. Some functional groups are called self-directed groups or self-managed teams because team leadership is shared. Organizations also develop a hybrid form of networks of teams called multi-team systems that have interdependencies in their pursuit of shared goals. Task teams work together on a specific activity. Being a member of a task group is in addition to your job in a functional group, so you can have two bosses. An ad hoc committee or task force is a formal temporary team that disbands when its purpose is accomplished. The standing committee is a formal ongoing team that often has rotating members. In the global economy, people from around the world work in teams digitally. Virtual teams conduct almost the entire group work by electronic digital communications rather than face-to-face communication. The team performance model states that a team's performance is based on its structure, dynamics, and stage of development. The performance model can be stated as a formula. Team performance is a function of team structure plus team dynamics plus team development stage. You should realize that to have high levels of performance, the team must have an effective structure for working together as a team, have a good dynamic human relations, and develop its ability to work as a team. Teams face systems effect. If any one of its components is weak, performance suffers. There are four team structure components that, along with team dynamics and development, affect team performance. Conflict and effectively resolving conflicts without hurting human relations is important to performance. Leadership is important to team performance. Composition refers to the diversity of team members. The mix or diversity involves more than gender or race. Important to team performance are knowledge, abilities, and skills of team members that should complement each other so that the team can achieve better results than individuals alone. Creative problem solving and decision making also affect team performance. Teams encounter problems and need to make decisions in getting their job done. How decisions are made, autocratic or participative, and the decisions themselves also affect performance. Team dynamics refers to the patterns of interactions that emerge as groups develop. The interactions are also called group processes and group dynamics. It's not about the work done, but rather about how effective the human relations are because they affect performance. To be effective, teams must agree on clear objectives and be committed to achieving them, and networks of teams share goals. The leader should allow the group to have input in setting objectives based on its capability to participate. What is the ideal team size? The number varies depending on the team's purpose. If the group is too small, it tends to be too cautious, and there might not be enough members to share work. Smaller groups do allow for more participation and offer better performance, and 5 to 9 members is commonly recommended. Groups of 20 or more tend to be too large to reach consensus on decisions, and they tend to form subgroups. But larger groups tend to generate more alternatives and higher quality ideas because they benefit from diverse participation. Usually, leaders have no say in the size of their functional group. However, the appropriate leadership style may vary with team size. Leaders who chair a committee may be able to affect team size. In doing so, be sure to get the right people on the committee while trying to keep the group size appropriate to the task. Functional groups generally have standing plans, policies, and rules to help provide the necessary guidelines for behavior. However, groups tend to form their own unwritten rules about how to get things done. Norms are the group's shared expectations of its members' behavior. Professional norms develop indicating what should do, what ought to, or what must be done. Members, influenced by leaders, determine what is acceptable and unacceptable behavior, such as how to talk and dress. If a team member does not follow a norm, the others may try to enforce compliance through peer pressure. The common ways teams enforce norms include ridicule, ostracism, sabotage, and physical abuse. You may likely experience peer pressure at school or in work teams. Team norms can be positive, helping the team to meet its objective, or they can be negative, hindering the group. Be aware of the group's norms and work towards maintaining and developing positive norms while trying to eliminate negative ones. Confront groups with negative norms and try to work out agreeable solutions to positive norms. The extent to which a group will abide by and enforce its norms depends on the degree of cohesiveness. Group cohesiveness is the attractiveness and closeness of group members that they have for one another and for the group. The more cohesive the group, the more its members stick together as a team. The more desirable group membership is, the more willing the members are to behaving according to the team's norms. For example, if some team members drink too much and or do drugs, the team may develop a norm of taking drugs. This peer pressure often wins out. To be accepted by the team, members will behave in ways that they maybe don't agree with personally. Many research studies have compared cohesive and non-cohesive teams and concluded that cohesive teams tend to have higher levels of success at achieving their objectives with greater job satisfaction. Unfortunately, sometimes the objectives and norms are personally negative and hold people back in their team performance. Strive to develop cohesive groups that accept positive norms. As team members interact, they develop respect for one another on numerous dimensions. The more respect, prestige, influence, and power a group member has, the higher his or her status within the team. Status is the perceived ranking of one member relative to other members of the group. Managers usually have higher status, and their level of status does affect their behavior and decisions. But status is based on several factors: a member's job title, wage or salary, seniority, knowledge or expertise, interpersonal skills, appearance, education, race, age, sex, and so on. Low-level members tend to copy high member status behavior. Status congruence is the acceptance and satisfaction members receive from their group status. Members who are not satisfied with their status may feel excluded from the team, and they may not achieve team goals. They may physically or mentally escape the team and not perform to their full potential. To be an effective leader, you need to have high status within the group because your status will affect your ability to influence others and your performance. Maintain good human relations within the group, particularly with high status informal leaders, because they endorse positive norms and objectives. In addition, be aware of conflicts that may result or signal a lack of status congruence. Team members have their own roles and responsibilities, as roles determine how you can contribute to the team and its performance. Roles are shared expectations of how group members will fulfill the requirements of their position. When interacting with the team, you learn team expectations, its norms. People often have multiple roles within the same position. When leaders interact with employees, they use directive behavior, supportive behavior, or both. These same two dimensions can also be performed by group members as they interact. When used to relate to a group interaction, they're commonly called task roles and maintenance roles. A third category, called self interest roles, is often added. The group's task roles are the things group members do and say that directly aid in the accomplishment of its objectives. Task roles focus on getting the job done and can be subclassified as objective clarifiers, planners, organizers, leaders, and controllers. The group's maintenance roles are the things group members do and say to develop and sustain group dynamics. Maintenance roles focus on people working effectively together. In contrast to these two types of roles that help team performance, self interest roles are the things group members do and say to meet their own needs or objectives at the expense of the team. Self interest seekers are often narcissistic, giving the impression that they're concerned about others and the organization, when in reality, such behavior is to cover and get what they want. To be effective, a team must have members who play task roles and maintenance roles while minimizing self interest roles. Within a group, you should be aware of the roles its members play. In this course, we'll describe each of group development stages and the tasks that groups may go through. However, not all groups progress through all stages, or they get stuck in one stage and never reach the group's full potential, so it's your job to help the team develop. Step 1. Orientation. The forming stage is characterized by low development level, high commitment, and low competence. When people first form a group, they tend to come to the group with a moderate to high commitment to the group. However, because they haven't worked together, they don't have the competence to achieve the tasks. Stage 2. Dissatisfaction. The storming stage is characterized by moderate development level, lower commitment, and some competence. As members work together for some time, they tend to become dissatisfied with the group. Members start to question, why am I a member? Is the group going to accomplish anything? Why don't other group members do what's expected? And so forth. Step 3. Resolution. The norming stage is characterized by a high development level, variable commitment, and high competence. As members develop competence, they also become more satisfied with the group and are committed to it. Relationships develop that satisfy group members' affiliation needs. Stage 4. Production. The performing stage is characterized by outstanding development level, high commitment, and high competence. The high commitment enhances productivity and performance, and does the high competence level as well. Stage 5. Termination. In functional groups, the adjourning stage is not reached unless there is some drastic organization, reorganization, or change. However, it does occur in task groups. During this stage, members experience feelings about leaving the group. The two key variables identified through each stage of group development are work on task, competence, and the social tone or morale, commitment. The two variables do not progress in the same manner. Competence tends to continue to increase through each of the 4 stages, while commitment tends to start high at stage 1, drop in stage 2, and then rise through stages 3 and 4. With the trend towards teams, there are more meetings in the workplace. Thus, you need meeting leadership skills for career success to run meetings and to be a productive member in meetings. The meeting skills presented here apply to both face-to-face and the increasing use of audio conference and video conference meetings. How do you define a committee? A committee is a group that takes minutes and wastes hours. Top-level managers spend as much as 1/3 of their day in meetings, and many people dislike meetings because they believe they're often an unproductive waste of time. But it doesn't have to be the case. You can develop the skills to plan, run, and help lead meetings and deal with the problem members effectively. The success or failure of meetings rests primarily with the leader, but again, we're all here to be leaders. So, if the person in charge is not running the meeting effectively, you may be able to help improve meetings. There are at least 5 areas in which meeting planning is needed. Objectives. A great mistake made by those who call meetings is they often have no clear idea or purpose for the meeting. Before calling a meeting, you should clearly define its purpose and objective. Participants and assignments. Before calling the meeting, the leader should decide who is qualified to attend the meeting. Agenda. The leader should identify the activities that will take place during the meeting and achieve the objective of the meeting. Place the agenda items in order of priority. Date, place, and time. Clearly specify the beginning and ending time and stick to it. Leadership. The leader should determine the group's level of development and plan to provide the appropriate task or maintenance behavior using the situational supervisor model. Some groups rotate the role of group moderator or leader for each meeting, with groups that are capable of doing so to develop meeting skills. The written plan. After leaders have planned the above 5 items, they should put them in writing and distribute to each member who will be attending the meeting. At the first meeting, the group is in the orientation stage. The leader should use a high task role. However, the members should be given the opportunity to spend some time to get to know one another. Introductions set the stage for subsequent interactions. As the formal leader, you should set some ground rules, such as a shutoff or vibrate smartphones and other devices that can be distracting. For long meetings, have a break that enables members to interact informally and check their screens. The norm of starting meetings late is common, so it's very important to have a ground rule to consider when meetings start and end. Begin meetings on time. Waiting for late members penalizes members who are on time and develops a norm for coming late. Each meeting should cover the following. Objectives. Begin by reviewing progress to date, the group's objectives, and the purpose or objective for the specific meeting. Agenda. Cover all items. Try to keep the approximate times and be flexible. Summarize and review assignments. The leader should summarize what took place during the meeting and review all of the assignments given. The leader must be sure to provide the appropriate task or maintenance behavior when it's needed. Certain personality types tend to emerge in team meetings that can cause the group to be less efficient. As the leader or member, you'll have to handle difficult people who don't conform with effective team meeting rules and norms. Next, we'll discuss how to handle 6 problem types and make the member and group more effective. The silent member. For the team to be fully effective, all group members should participate. If members are silent, the team does not get the benefit of their input. Encourage the silent member to participate without being obvious or overbearing. The talker. Talkers have something to say about everything. They like to dominate the discussion. The simple rotation method is effective with talkers as they have to wait for their turn during rotating comments during a meeting. The wanderer. Wanderers distract the team from the agenda and often like to complain and criticize as they ramble off topic. Keep the group on track. If the wanderer socializes, cut off the conversation. The board member. Your team may have one or more members who are not interested in the task. The board person may be preoccupied with other issues and not pay attention or participate in the group meeting. Keep members motivated. Assign the board member a task such as recording ideas or recording the minutes. The arguer. Like the talker, the arguer likes to be the center of attention. They enjoy arguing for the sake of arguing rather than helping the group. Resolve conflict, but not in an argumentative way. Always stay calm. The social loafer. This problem member doesn't want to take individual responsibility and do their fair share of work. Following all of the previously mentioned meeting guidelines helps, especially giving clear individual assignments. Whenever you work in a team, do not embarrass, intimidate, or argue with any members, no matter how much they provoke you. When we discuss problems, we also include opportunities, and when we discuss decision making, we're also including problem solving because they go hand in hand. A problem exists whenever there's a difference between what is actually happening and what the individual or group wants to be happening. If your objective is to produce 500 units per day, but only 475 were produced, you have a problem. We typically try to reduce the discrepancy between the actual performance and the objective. Thus, problem solving is the process of taking corrective action in order to meet objectives. There are various decision making styles, and your personality affects how you'll make decisions. Decisions can be classified by information used and decision speed, including reflexive, consistent, and reflective decision making styles. A reflexive decision maker likes to make quick decisions, to shoot from the hip, without taking the time to get all the information that may be needed and without considering all alternatives. On the positive side, reflexive decision makers are decisive, they don't procrastinate. On the negative side, making quick decisions can lead to a waste and duplication when the decision is not the best possible alternative. A reflective decision maker likes to take plenty of time to make decisions, taking into account considerable information and analysis of several alternatives, or because they are procrastinators avoiding making decisions altogether. On the positive side, this style does not make decisions that are rushed, but on the negative side, they procrastinate and waste valuable time and other resources and lose out on opportunities. A consistent decision maker makes decision without rushing or wasting time. Consistent decision makers know when they have enough information and the alternatives to make a sound decision. They have the most consistent record of good decisions. The key to effective decision making is knowing when to make quick decisions without the model versus considered ones using the model. It's not necessary to follow all 5 steps of the model when making unimportant reoccurring decisions, when the outcome of the decision is known, called certainty. Risk taking is fundamental to decision making. Use the model when making important non reoccurring decisions when the outcome is risky or uncertain. Following are the steps in the model, but they won't guarantee success. However, following the model will increase the probability of successful decision making. Let's take a look. Step 1. Define the problem. If you misdiagnose the problem, you'll not solve it, so slow down. In analyzing the problem, first distinguish the symptoms from the cause of the problem. Step 2. Set objectives and criteria. After the problem has been defined, you set an objective, an end result for the decision, to solve the problem. Next, you identify the criteria of the decision that will meet or achieve the objective. It's helpful to specify must and want criteria. Step 3. Generate alternatives. You need to generate as many possible methods or alternatives for solving the problem through decision making. When making non-routine decisions, new creative solutions are often needed. Step 4. Analyze alternatives and select one. Here you have to analyze each alternative and measure it based on objectives and criteria. Think forward and try to predict the outcome of each alternative. Then, select the best method based on this analysis. Step 5. Plan, implement, and control the decision. Step 5 has 3 separate parts. After making the decision, you should develop a plan of action with a schedule for implementation. Decision making is a waste of time if you don't actually implement it. As with all plans, controls should be developed while planning. Checkpoints with feedback should be established to determine whether the decision is solving the problem. When you make a poor decision, you should admit the mistake and change the decision by going back to the previous steps in the decision-making model. Creativity means the ability to develop unique alternatives to solve problems. Innovation is the organizational implementation of creative ideas. Innovation is important to organizational success as many organizations are working to enhance creativity and innovation. Creativity is about coming up with ways to improve products and processes by rethinking a problem and creating opportunity. The following are the stages in the creative process that can help improve your creativity. The four stages of the creative process are preparation, possible solutions, incubation, and evaluation. You must become familiar with a specific problem, so concentrate without multitasking. This is done during steps 1 and 2 of the decision model. Get others' opinions, feelings, and ideas, as well as the facts. Then generate as many possible creative solutions as you can think of without making judgments. The brainstorming rules that we'll discuss next will provide some details. After generating alternatives, take a break. This is what incubation is all about. It doesn't have to be long, but take some time before working on the problem again. During the incubation stage, you might have insight into the problem's solution. Finally, evaluation. Before implementing a solution, you should evaluate the alternative and make sure the idea is practical. Use evidence-based management. How people respond to creative ideas will affect behavior. Brainstorming is the process of suggesting many alternatives without evaluation to solve a problem. When brainstorming, the group is presented with a problem or opportunity and asked to come up with creative solutions. Brainstorming is commonly used for creating new products, naming products, and developing advertising slogans. Here are 4 interrelated brainstorming rules. Quantity. Team members should generate as many ideas as possible. The more ideas increases the chances of an excellent solution. No criticism. Each team member should not criticize or evaluate ideas in any way during the solution generating phase of brainstorming. Freewheel. You can think outside of the box. Actually, we encourage it. You have to see things from new angles and perspectives. No idea is a bad idea. Extend. Team members should try to build on the ideas of others and take them in new directions. Brainwriting is a variation of brainstorming. To eliminate the influence of team peer pressure and other members' suggestions, participants write their ideas down. Then the ideas are recorded and members try to improve or combine ideas. Creativity is about coming up with novel ideas. This is the process of generating novel alternatives through role-playing and fantasizing. It's appropriate to use nominal grouping to ensure that status difference among members doesn't influence the process or decisions. Some members tend to agree with the boss or informal leader or ignore ideas from lower status members. Nominal grouping is the process of generating and evaluating alternatives through a structured voting method. A consensus is a cooperative attempt to develop a solution acceptable to all rather than a forced decision on some members. The Delphi technique is considered a variation of nominal grouping. Without face-to-face interaction at any point, it also includes consensus. The Delphi technique pulls a group through a series of anonymous questionnaires. This process may continue for 4 or 5 rounds before consensus emerges. Groups can solve problems far better than any individual can. But that doesn't always happen. The challenge in decision-making is to maximize the advantages while minimizing the disadvantages in attaining synergy. Synergy occurs when a group's solution to a problem or opportunity is superior to all individuals. The question today isn't so much about should we use group to make decisions, but at what level of participation should we use?